You've probably heard the story, right? The one about how a single battle made one man so rich, it basically set his family up for centuries. It's maybe the most famous story in all of finance, Nathan Rothschild and the Battle of Waterloo. So, let's get into it. I mean, seriously, this tale has got it all. You got a genius financier, a battle for the ages, secret messengers racing across the continent, and this massive high-stakes gamble on the stock market that pays off bigger than you can imagine. It is a perfect thriller. But, as we're going to find out, the real story, well, it's a lot more complicated and, honestly, even more fascinating.
So first, let's just lay out the legend, the blockbuster version that's been passed around for 200 years, the one that made the name Rothschild mean financial wizardry.
Okay, so you've got your two main players. In one corner, Nathan Rothschild, the brain behind the English branch of this legendary banking family, a huge deal in London. And in the other corner, you have the emperor himself, Napoleon Bonaparte, the military mastermind who has all of Europe holding its breath. The whole continent is their stage, and the final showdown, it's Waterloo.
Now, the timing here is absolutely everything. Look at this timeline. On June 16th, Napoleon scores some early wins, and London just panics. Everybody's betting he's going to take it all. 2 days later, it's the big one, Waterloo, and everything flips. This is where the legend really takes off. Rothschild has an agent right there on the battlefield who sees the British win and just goes. He sprints for London, beating the official government news by hours.
So Rothschild gets the news first. He knows Wellington won. The war's over. Now the obvious move, right? You start buying up British government bonds. They were called consols, because you know their price is about to shoot to the moon. But according to the story, he does the exact opposite.
He walks right onto the floor of the London Stock Exchange and just starts selling. Publicly, dumping his bonds. Everyone on the floor freaks out. I mean, if Rothschild is selling, it can only mean one thing. Napoleon won. It's pure panic. People start selling everything. The price just tanks. And then, right at the bottom, Rothschild's agents quietly start buying up everything they can get their hands on for practically nothing. A little while later, the official news finally arrives. Wellington is victorious. The market just erupts. Those bonds he bought for pennies are suddenly worth a fortune. And just like that, Nathan Rothschild supposedly makes millions in a single day. It's the ultimate power move, an absolutely incredible story.
But you know what they say about incredible stories? Sometimes they're a little too neat, a little too perfect. And that brings us to the big question.
Is that really how it all went down? Was Nathan Rothschild's massive fortune actually built on one brilliant, sneaky trade? Or is there something else going on here? Let's peel back the layers and see what the evidence actually says.
Okay, let's put on our investigator hats for a minute. Because when you start digging into the actual historical records, that perfect Hollywood story, well, it starts to fall apart, and pretty fast.
First off, where did this story even come from? Well, you might be surprised to learn it didn't show up until 1846. That's more than 30 years after the battle. And it was in a French pamphlet written by a guy who called himself Satan. The whole thing was basically a political hit piece. This wasn't unbiased history, not by a long shot.
The whole legend rests on Rothschild getting the news first, right? But check this out. Historian Brian Cathcart looked into it, and it turns out that's probably not true. Yeah, Rothschild's couriers were incredibly fast, but Wellington's own official messenger actually got to the government in London first. So the whole idea that he had this exclusive, game-changing information, it just doesn't hold up.
And the massive fortune he supposedly made? This is where it gets really interesting. According to historian Niall Ferguson, a quick, decisive victory was actually kind of bad for Rothschild's business. His whole strategy was built around financing a long war. Napoleon's sudden defeat threw a wrench in that whole plan. Sure, he probably made some money on bonds that day, but it was nowhere near millions, and it was likely canceled out by losses in other parts of his business.
So, if the Waterloo story is a myth, then how did Nathan Rothschild get so unbelievably wealthy and powerful? The real answer is a story about long-term vision, not a short-term gamble.
Now this is the real story, and it's way more impressive than the legend. His fortune wasn't some lucky bet. It was built over years of incredibly complex, high-risk international finance. He wasn't just some guy trading on the floor. He was practically the British government's personal banker. He figured out how to get massive amounts of money and gold to Wellington's armies all over Europe. He cornered the market on gold bullion and became a titan in trading government debt.
And just to give you an idea of the kind of scale we're talking about, look at this number. Just 3 years after Waterloo, he put together a £5 million loan for Prussia.
That one single deal was probably worth more than the entire mythical prophet from Waterloo. It shows you what his real business was.
And maybe the best summary of his real power comes from his biggest rivals, the Baring family. They didn't see him as some lucky speculator. They said he was to money what Napoleon was to war. That's some serious respect from your competition.
So, if the facts point in a completely different direction, why has this legend survived for so long? Why do we all know the myth instead of the much more complex reality?
Well, the answer is pretty simple, isn't it? The legend is just a way better story. It's clean, it's dramatic, it's about one moment of pure genius. The reality? Years of navigating complex exchange rates, government contracts, and the logistics of moving gold across a war zone. It's just not as easy to tell. It's messy.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This story isn't just about one banker. It's about how we choose to remember history itself. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other perfect stories that we all know and accept are just that, legends that are way more exciting than the complicated truth? It's a good question to ask about almost any great story we think we know.